Hey everyone, Pugs here with two new reviews for y'all. Today, I'm covering Lost in Bikini Bottom and Tutor Sauce, officially beginning our foray into Season 9B, meaning that we are now entering the post-sequel era, what many refer to as modern SpongeBob, even if that moniker is a little inaccurate these days. I personally call this the revitalized era, but, to each their own. I will maybe remember to talk about that during the Season 9 overview. As always, thank you all for watching the video today. Always feels extra special when we're starting what is, for all intents and purposes, a new era like this. And now, let's just get right into it. How utterly nostalgic this episode is. My oh my. It's been over 10 years since this episode premiered. That's just... wow. Wow. I remember this episode premiering almost more clearly than any other episode around this time. The buzz and the excitement around Season 9B, man, good times. Like I mentioned in my review of Sponge Out of Water, Hillenburg's return to the show got people really, really excited, especially because his relative absence was seen as, the biggest reason why the show got bad. Their words, not mine. So these first couple years post-sequel, like 2015 to 2017, that was a real good time to be a SpongeBob fan, let me tell you. And Lost in Bikini Bottom certainly did not play around when it came to immediately establishing Season 9B as something a bit different to what came before it. Funnily enough, this episode was actually written by Jack Pendarvis, who had never written on SpongeBob before, and boarded by Bob Camp, who had never boarded on SpongeBob before. So that already sets the tone of freshness right off the bat. Lost in Bikini Bottom begins with a gorgeous shot of Squidward's house. I mean, first of all, not only is the background just gorgeous, but also the shot is interesting itself, like the perspective of it. Not something we've seen much before. Just want to point that out. Squidward is soaking in the bath, something he's apparently been doing for 20 minutes. I must say, I respect his dedication to getting up early enough to be able to soak in the bath before work, because that's where he's going next, and SpongeBob joins him after a quick gag that makes me think of Missing Identity. And I love the track that's playing here while SpongeBob and Squidward are walking to work, Spongy Bubbles. This track has only been used 4 times, with the first being in Face Freeze. I think that this is a crime. When I originally wrote the written review of this episode, which was literally 2.5 years ago, this song had also only appeared 4 times, meaning it hasn't appeared at all since its last appearance. A damn shame. This episode wastes no time getting into the plot as we see SpongeBob worrying about getting to work late, despite the fact that he and Squidward are on track for getting there 15 minutes early. Honestly, I'm surprised Squidward is going to work so early. Guess Mr. Krabs was getting tired of that 12% on-time percentage. Anyway, I love how SpongeBob is the workaholic little guy we know and love here, where he's freaking out about the prospect of only arriving at work 14 minutes early. And I love this part where Squidward has to explain to SpongeBob that they are walking in a straight line, and I love how SpongeBob is still bound and determined to find a shortcut. Of course, the point is that there is no shortcut, so things go awry for SpongeBob rather quickly. And this takes up most of the episode, meaning that this is one of those episodes with a very basic plot that fills its time with jokes and entertainment. And joke and entertain this episode does very well, actually. It's visually interesting, like all of the different backgrounds and environmental designs as SpongeBob traverses Bikini Bottom are great. That's one thing I really love about newer episodes of the show. They are great about filling their environment. You'll probably see me point this out 100 more times in as many episodes. I mean, as another example, we see SpongeBob meet other Bikini Bottomites in this episode as they're given, as much as possible, some personality and memorability, which helps flesh out the world even more. And there's also a variety of gags to keep things varied and not stale during the episode as well. Because the episode is really just SpongeBob trying to get back to the Krusty Krab after getting lost, there really isn't much for me to say about the plot. SpongeBob just continually fails to get back until he eventually does. But as I mentioned before, what really carries this episode are the gags. Yeah, this episode isn't the funniest, but it more than has its moments. I really loved all the iterations of the joke with the false Krusty Krab signs. Those were great. And the joke with the payphone, that was excellent. It's even funnier when you again consider how the show tries to stay away from technology that can make it dated, but then it decides to go all in just for this joke. I love it. It goes to show that at the end of the day, the point is to make us laugh. I think that's worth keeping in mind. Anyway, I think that this episode has a lot of jokes that work for both kids and adults, which in my opinion is how the formula should always be. Not that the show has ever really strayed from this formula, but I don't know. Something about this episode really calls to mind some of the wittier kind of adult humor I love seeing out of the show, and it just feels like I haven't seen that in some time. This episode is also starting to bring to mind some of the more exaggerated and expressive animation that the show is going to be known for during this post-sequel era, although it's certainly not found very much in this episode. But the foundation is there. This episode has some smooth animation and a few moments of exaggerated expressions that we didn't see so often before, at least, not in the same way. And then the general improvements when it comes to the set design of Bikini Bottom, of having SpongeBob explore all of these environments we haven't seen before. That's another hallmark of post-sequel episodes that this episode really showcases nicely. That's also a characteristic I see people talk much less about in favor of the expressive animation, but given my focus on the backgrounds and vibes of the show, you bet your ass that this will be the aspect I'll likely be talking about most as I get more and more into these newer and newer episodes. Lost in Bikini Bottom is a good, fun episode. It's not perfect by any means, but it doesn't need to be, and there's nothing glaringly wrong with it either. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think that it's a great entry into the world of Season 9B. I'm so excited for this era of the show, y'all have no idea, and that's because it's my most unfamiliar era, with so many of the episodes being ones I've only seen at best a couple of times versus other seasons where I've seen them a lot more than that. Now, I mean, this doesn't really apply until season 12, but still. But anyway, so this episode is being put in my amazing tier, where it comes in with a score of 9 out of 10. Seems to me like the name of the game is nostalgia, because Tutor Sauce is yet another really nostalgic episode for me. I will try not to start every review of a Season 9B episode like this, but no promises because it's literally just the truth. Although, funnily enough, I don't specifically remember watching this episode for the first time. I guess since it premiered at the same time as its sister episode, it gets the less clear memory. Who knows? What I really love about Tutor Sauce is how it seamlessly blends two different types of regular SpongeBob SquarePants plots, a Krusty Krab plot and a SpongeBob trying to get his license plot. And really, the best part is that we see other characters, or in this case just Mr. Krabs, get involved in a SpongeBob trying to get his license plot for once, something we don't see very often and haven't really seen since I think Boating Buddies. Hard to remember. But I think that this episode does a much better job blending these two plots than, say, Summer Job. Though, in all fairness, that episode had a different goal and a much different plot than this episode, so maybe that's not a fair comparison, but it's the comparison I've got right now. Tutor Sauce starts off pretty well. It opens with Mr. Krabs doing the rounds at the Krusty Krab, talking with customers to see if they're enjoying their experience, which is something I haven't experienced at a restaurant in a long time, given that I avoid dine and eating these days, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that Mr. Krabs sees that one guy has a Krabby Patty that's just made entirely out of patties, and when he finds out that the guy didn't pay extra, he faints oh so dramatically. I liked the part with Squidward just using regular salt on him since he didn't have smelling salts. We find out about other errors with the patties, which leads Mr. Krabs into the kitchen. We get the reveal that these messed up patties are the result of SpongeBob being upset about failing his boating exam, and let me tell you, I already like this plot. I mean, for one thing, given the episodic nature of the show, we don't really explore the impact of events that happened prior to the episode on the characters in the time period that the episode takes place, if that makes sense. Yeah, there are off-screen inciting events at times, but it's not really often, and it's not usually an event that we usually see on screen, like SpongeBob failing his boating school exam, so this is cool to see the actual and emotional impact repeated failure has on SpongeBob outside of him being in the boat, and this plot has the bonus of being able to be put chronologically after any boating school episode if you so desire. Again, I'm not really someone who has a strict canon timeline for SpongeBob, but it's a fun thought experiment, so it's cool that this episode lets us play around with that. And then y'all know that I love interactions between SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs, so I'm pretty stoked with where this episode is going. Not to mention, Mr. Krabs teaching SpongeBob how to drive? Well, shit, they're pretty much just handing us these father-son crumbs on a silver platter. Can I even call it a crumb at this point? And don't even get me started on the little moment between Mr. Krabs and Pearl in this episode. That was precious. And notice how they had Mr. Krabs give Pearl the money she asked for with no runaround? For quick gags like this, let's keep that attitude going. The Mr. Krabs is a good father brigade prevails once again. It's me and the characters I defend from bad parent allegations against the world. Also, SpongeBob only pays $100 a semester for boating school. Man, I wish college was that cheap. Then I wouldn't have student loans. The other best part about Tutor Sauce is that it's funny as fuck. Like its sister episode, Tutor Sauce has a simple plot that's chock full of gags, both one-off and running, and it is done very well here. I mean, first of all, the main running gag of the episode, with SpongeBob crashing into the Krusty Krab, or making something crash into the Krusty Krab, and Mr. Krabs subsequently calculating the damages, is hilarious every single time. I truly don't know what to tell you. All I can say is that construction worker got paid today. I know they were happy. And then there's so many other funny jokes in this episode. I really could not recount all of them to y'all. So many visual gags and expressive moments that make me laugh here. And yes, I'm also noticing that we're slowly pushing into those really exaggerated expressions that modern SpongeBob is known for, don't worry. And the whole bit with Mr. Krabs trying to give himself a pep talk, that was hilarious. And of course, I love how Gary is a master of driving. Of course he is. Can't wait to get to the episode where he steals a boat. Tutor Sauce is for sure one of the best episodes I've seen in quite some time. It was just so fucking funny, man. And I really loved the character dynamics here. Couldn't even say anything bad about this episode if I tried. Easily the best of the season so far. And as I said, one of the best in a very long time, which is why it's getting the honor of being put in my amazing tier with a pretty high score, a 9.6 out of 10. As always, I'll be ending this video with some closing thoughts of mine. This was one of those weeks where writing was a bit like pulling teeth. Obviously, it's not that I didn't like these episodes or anything. I was just having, I guess, some writer's block, so these scripts are pretty similar to the original written reviews of these episodes, despite how long ago at this point those were written, which is weird to say. But man, I really am so excited to be getting into this era of modern SpongeBob. I guess I should stick with calling it post-sequel because it's really not modern anymore. I mean, these episodes are over a decade old, which is fucking wild to me. Even wilder to think that I was a teenager a decade ago. Oh god. Alright, well, before I have a crisis of time passing by, I think I'm gonna close things out here because I've really got nothing else to say, and so I'll see y'all in the next review.